Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to more lore and loot Morrowind. It's time for another writ, and we are starting off here in Vivec. Grand Master Hlaalu will tell us that he has a writ for one Mathyn Bemis, the head of a gang of outlaws which is making the Ancestral vaults in the Hlaalu canton his hideout. This will trigger the quest Writ for Mathyn Bemis. We can reach this ancestral tomb by entering the wasteworks of the Hlaalu canton and heading downstairs into the canal works. If we are lucky and we went down the correct door, we will find the tomb. The tomb is divided left and right, starting at the front door. Immediately in front of us, we see a shrine of the tribunal. We'll definitely take note of this shrine for later. The left path will lead through a door and another forking hallway. The left side takes us down a winding corridor, which will eventually lead to a ritual ash pit with a mural behind it. Standing here alone is Arvin Nallen. Now, back to the main hall. If we take the right and go through this door, we will enter a large chamber with a staircase. At the top of this area, we see our mark, Mathyn Bemis, and the rest of his gang, along with their loot barrels and crates. It would seem that the most prudent idea would be to deal with the lone enemy first, Arvin Nallen. So let's head to the left, down the first hallway. We did not explore this right path, but it just leads to another ash pit with some rats. Nothing to be overly concerned with, as there is no treasure or loot to be had here. Now we head to the other side and deal with Nallen. We paralyze him with our first attack, then switch over to a different weapon to deal damage. He is well armored in a full set of bone mold armor, so this will be a death by 1,000 paper cuts kind of scenario. As soon as the paralysis wears off, we do it again. Now, this is a brilliant plan, with a slight problem. Unbeknownst to us, and defying all logic and explanation, the rest of the gang heard our fight from way on the other side of the tomb and have come running to aid their comrade. Thankfully, we were able to down Arvin Nallen permanently and can focus on the rest of them. But this is not really going according to plan. First to rush in is Mathyn Bemis himself, who seems to be wielding a spark blade of some kind. We'll counter him with our own glass shard blade and trade blows with him while trying to avoid the crossbow bolts being shot at us by Nerisea Solaris from across the room. Too bad there's no enemy-friendly fire in this game. I'm sure Bemis would have taken at least some bolts to the back. Anyways, the shard blade is out of charge, so we switch over to one of our jinx swords and go back to the tried and true method of paralysis and attack. The ebony staff doesn't have charge, but it packs a wallop, and we crush Bemis' skull with a few bonks to the noggin. Now, to deal with this annoying crossbow-wielding coward. Even though she probably doesn't have a lot of health, she is well armored, and so we have to try to get her with a paralysis/damage combo. Well, this does the trick very nicely, and now we only have one guy left to deal with. And what a guy this is. Sneaking around the corner, we see the heavily armor-clad Boris Falls. We rush around the corner and start stabbing, but then he does something. He summons a gosh darn greater Bonewalker, the bane of my existence. Really, I hate these guys. These guys will drain your attributes, and it stacks. The correct solution here is to flee and regroup. In my travels, I found an amulet that lets me summon my own zombie. Unfortunately, mine is only a minor bone walker, which are not as cool as greater ones. But it's something, I guess. At this point, we have taken so many hits that our endurance is down to 22, and our strength is down to a freaking 3. With a strength of 3, we could probably walk around in a shirt and pants, and that's about it. But we have no time to focus on that. We need to kill Falls before he or his zombie kills us. After a terrible battle, we are victorious, but at great personal cost. We are left with an endurance of 14, which would leave us huffing and puffing from even the most mundane of tasks like making a scrib jelly sandwich, and a heartbreaking strength of literally 0. If we could have walked around in a shirt and pants at 3, we certainly can no longer do so. We will literally have to drop everything, every single item, before we can do anything else. So let's. We do have one random potion of Restore Strength, so that will save a little time. After reaching a weight where we can move again, we book it to the shrine at the entrance, the one I told you to take note of, in the hopes that leaving an offering will cure us of this curse. And blessed Almsivi, there it is. Thanking Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivek, we can head back to the scene of the battle and loot. Well, we first have to pick up all our stuff. Then we can loot. First up, Mathyn Bemis. He doesn't have much, but we can take the spark blade for now. Now for Arvin Nellen. Honestly, bone mold stuff is pretty good. But let's hold off on taking his stuff until we find out if there's anything else worth taking that's better. Okay, Boris Falls is next. This guy. Oh, I tell ya. Now, his steel armor is too heavy to be worth taking. But this Fiend Battle Axe is a great find. Though it weighs 30, it is worth 9,000. So we're taking this if we take nothing else. But we'll be back for the rest of his stuff. Nurisea Solaris is next. Much like Nalin, we can wait to see if we have any carrying capacity left before looting her stuff. For now, we're going to head over to the other part of the tomb and go through all of the containers to see what they have. Most of them will have nothing more than typical crate, barrel, and sack loot. However, we do find a few crates with some mysterious ash statues. They give us a weird, uneasy sensation, so we decide to leave them. There is one other crate with some of these statues, but other than that, there's very little worth taking. Some of the containers have moon sugar, so we can take that. Even this small chest only has 25 drakes. This large, locked and trapped chest has a magic spear, nothing great. Another large chest on the other side has 56 coins, and that's it. With about 40 carrying capacity left, we can now loot everyone else. We take everything from Nurisea's corpse that we want, and then position ourselves in the middle of the other 3, so we can take from them without having to walk. Now, we can loot them completely, and then use our Amulet of Recall to make it back to the hideout without any issues. Dropping everything, we can then head back to Grandmaster Hlaalu and inform him of our great success. Our reward, as always, is 1,000 gold, but we have a lot of loot to sell, so we're going to make out really, really well after this mission. Between episodes, we'll head to Caldera and sell as much stuff to Creeper as we can. Everything else we will sell to anyone else willing to buy. And that will do it for this episode of Lore and Loot. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more Elder Scrolls content. Thank you for joining me for this episode, and I'll see you next time.